Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. I'm Zulfikar, Media Studies teacher, A levels, and we are going to revise sounds today. Um, if you're making a film opening or if you are working on practicing your extract or you're looking forward for your major exams or whatever the scenario is, the thing is, while solving the extract, it also happens that we can identify the camera elements and the mise-en-scène elements since they are very obvious. And when you look at notes, there are a lot of things in the camera, a lot of things in the mise-en-scène, but the thing is, sound and editing is the most difficult one to fill in to find out the notes. So what we need to do is we need to understand more about the sounds and the type of sounds. And okay, so the first thing is the diegetic and the non-diegetic sound. So diegetic sound are the sounds which belong to that film word. That word diegesis means the film word. So if, for example, if there is some dialogue, so that dialogue basically is from that film word. So that's diegetic sound. Think about all the things which are happening in the scene. For example, if somebody is walking in the corridor and the footstep sounds are the diegetic sounds. The opening of the door, since that the part of the film, that's the diegetic sound, that key sound, the door opening, handle sound. For example, there is a dialogue of two people who are sitting on a bench and it's night and there is cricket sound in the background. So that cricket sound also is the diegetic sound since that belong to that film word. So all of those sounds are your diegetic sound which belong to that film word. But all those sounds which are added later on, for example, the background music, the background theme musics, or the sound effects and all those things. For example, in case of the comedy, there can be the laughter sounds, or in case of the horror, those suspense and horror building sounds. All of those sounds are going to be the non-diegetic because they are later on added to add an effect. So they do not belong to that film world. Um, a tricky question can be like, for example, if there is a piano sound, so is that a diegetic or a non-diegetic? If you show a person who is playing the piano, no, that's the diegetic. But if there is no person who's playing the piano over there and there is some piano added, that's the background music and that's the non-diegetic. So I think that's going to give you help to differentiate between both of the terminologies, the diegetic and the non-diegetic sound. Okay. The next one is the synchronous and the asynchronous sound. So all the sound which are synchronized with something, including the lip sync, including all the uh, punch sound, maybe fight in a fight sequence there is some kick sound, punch sound, or a car screeching sound when the car apply brakes, and all the sound which are synchronized with what's happening on the screen. So those are your synchronous sounds. And then there are asynchronous sound. Asynchronous sounds are basically the sounds which tell you something happening around the character. Like for example, think about a crime scene in which you show a person who is hiding and you are showing that person, but at the same time there is police horn in the background. So that is basically the asynchronous sound. It's telling about that happening, what's happening on the screen at the moment, but you're not showing the police cars. You're showing that person, but you can listen to those sounds. So this is asynchronous sound. Another form of asynchronous, that's another variety of asynchronous sound, is you throw the sound out of the sync because of something very intense happening. Think about a blast happening and everything um, shattering apart. So there is a person who is listening to the sounds, but you are showing everything in slow motion maybe, and the sounds are off sync now. So it's not synchronized. Sounds are not synchronized with what's happening on the screen. So it's going to give that audience that laggy feeling which is happening on the screen at the moment. So this is your asynchronous sound, another like type of asynchronous sound. So the next sound which we are going to discuss is the sound motif. Sometimes you associate a special sound with some character. For example, whenever Indiana Jones comes, there is a sound which tells the audience that Indiana Jones is over there. Superman has his own sound, and Pink Panther has its own sound. Everyone know that sound. And whenever there is some special character which is going to appear, or whenever that character comes, there is some special music which plays, or there can be some special sound associated to whenever that event is going to happen. So all of those sounds are called the sound motif. So the next thing is the sound bridge. Sound bridge at its very basic level is simply like this. When one sound bridges two scenes, one sound carries over to the next visual. So the sound continues and next visual comes in. It can be something like this in a very basic form. It can be something like this. Think about an establishing shot from outside the house, and you're listening to the conversation prior to the shot, next shot which is inside the house, and the sound continues. Another example can be when the film starts and you are showing an aerial shot of a car traveling on a road, and before showing inside of that car, inside the character, even seeing those character for the first time, what is happening on that aerial shot from a very wide perspective. What you are doing is you're listening to their conversation already in the previous shot, and the sound continues, so that sound acts like a sound bridge. And it can be used in a very creative way. Like, for example, think about the audio match cuts. There are some very special transitions. Like, for example, think about the scene from the Agent Carter in which the plane is crashing, and the sound of that engine bridges the next scene in which there's a woman who is having that kettle on the stove, and that sound is very similar to the sound of that plane's engine sound. So both visuals are connected through one sound, and that's also a sound bridge, and they're also known as the audio match cut. So you can identify sound bridges very easily. I hope so. So the next thing is the voiceover. So voiceover is when in any form you record a voice over some video. Like, it can be for the documentaries, some narration which is being told, or it can be some voiceover dubbing of the dialogues. For example, there are cartoon characters, or maybe there are some 3D films in which the characters are talking, and there are artists who go for that voiceover. The next thing is the mode of address. So mode of address basically means how the person is talking to someone. What is the choice of language? Is it a formal language, informal language, slangs, or maybe that person is talking to that person in an angry tone, or maybe that person is talking sadly, or maybe that person is happy or unhappy. So there can be many mode of addresses which tell a lot about that character. Then you can link the mode of address with maybe authority, with maybe that person who is in a compromised position, and the sound tells you a lot about the character. So you can link the sound with a character, or with a situation, or with a representation very easily by mode of address as well. Okay. So another thing is the direct mode of address. Sometimes your character, and that happens in your postmodern products usually, uh, that sometimes your character might interact with the audience directly, breaking the fourth wall. What is happening is essentially what I'm talking about. Essentially, is the characters on the screen. They should not look at the camera, and they should not talk to the audience, because they are in the film world. But what if they say something directly to the audience? So that is going to be the direct mode of address then. So sound mixing is the next thing. Sound mixing is you have like different sound playing at the same time, and you are going to control the intensity of the sound. For example, how loud some sound is. For example, there is a dialogue, and there is a background music, and then there are sound effects, and there are some sounds which are playing together at the same time. So sound mixing is about like how loud some sound gets at some point. For example, for a horror film, in order to give you a jump scare, what happens is, using the sound mixing, what they do is they increase the sound of that scary sound up to a level that you get the shock of that scene. So that you do through the sound mixing. Next thing is the sound perspective. Sound perspective is about two things: the direction of the sound, from where the sound is coming, and another thing is it tells you about the distance. For example, think about some character who is walking towards a protagonist um, from a distance. So when he comes close, his footsteps are heard louder as compared to when he was far away. So an approaching car. So you can, from the sound, you can think about the sound perspective. What you're getting, it's used for building intensity. Sound perspectives can be used to convey meanings to the audience. For example, think about a situation in which people are stuck in flood, and no there's no hope left, and at the distance you start hearing the sound of the chopper, and slowly that sound gets close. So without even seeing that chopper, you know that there is some hope now, because you have heard that sound of that chopper. In a crime, in a film, when there is some crime scene, and there is a distant sound of police siren, and when the sirens are getting close, your audience get the feeling that police is over there and they're going to arrest the criminals. So there are different ways sound perspectives are used. It gives you the whereabout of the things in that film world, and the direction as well, and the distance of the thing. So that's your sound perspectives. And finally, you have the soundtrack. So basically, soundtracks, or the songs usually which are made for the film, they are your soundtracks. And sound score is something, the whole sound designed for a film, including all the theme musics and the soundtracks and everything. That is your that is going to be your sound score. And then there can be themes, so background theme musics which keep on playing at different times, so they are going to be the theme musics. And there can be stings can be something, a particular sound effect for the particular moment. For example, in comedy there are stings, there are funny stings as well. So and the final one is the ambient sound. So ambient sound is the natural sound of some place. Like for example, think about if you're talking about a restaurant, so the ambient sound is going to be talking of the people, and sort of like mumbling, not very clear. And they're going to be the sound of forks and spoons, and all the utensils over there, or um, think about ambient sound of a train. So there are going to be the people who are traveling, and they're going to be the sound of the trains, approaching trains, and their sounds. And think about the ambient sound of nighttime in a jungle. So there are going to be sound of the animals as well as a cricket sound. So there are going to be the ambient sound which tells you about that place. Also, whenever you're going to go for recording of your film, it is suggested that you record some of the ambient sound of that place, so you can use it in a layer to give the audience feeling, natural feeling of that place. So you should always record the ambient sound. So instead that some parts of your film goes black without the ambient sound, instead there should be that the original ambient sound over there. So record some extra ambient sound whenever you're going on some location and you're going to shoot over there. There's sometimes your sound fall in multiple categories. Like for example, think about the dialogue. A dialogue is also the diegetic sound as well. The sound played when Superman comes can be the sound motif as well as a non-diegetic as well, because you see no one playing over there. The source is not in your film. So, thank you everyone, dear students. We have revised the micro elements of the sound, and see you in the next video, which is related to editing. Bye.